Welcome to another episode of Hair Biz Radio with your host Zakiyrah and
Mikey.
And today we have a very special guest. When Mikey was telling me about her, I was like, oh, she sounds super dope. So today we have on the podcast Tiffini Gatlin, and she owns a hair company. I want her to tell you guys the name of the hair company, just how she got started, some background information, because she has an amazing story. So I'm excited to share that with you all today.
Hey guys.
Hey, yeah, she's been through it.
Yeah. Hey girl. Hey, how are you?
I'm really great. Thank you guys for having me on.
Course.
Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Pleasure.
So I was introduced to Tiffini through Mikey. So you want to tell a little bit about how you met Tiffini and why you said, oh my gosh, she needs to be on this podcast.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting story, right? Because I knew about her, and I think I might have said one thing to you years prior to us actually having lunch together 2 years ago. So she used to be in a warehouse Todd's warehouse, same warehouse.
Oh yeah.
Where we used to, my business partner former business partner used to have a warehouse in there in the food industry. And then I remember seeing your space, and it was like all these orders being packed and all the stuff. You had the bins, and I think I asked you about the bins. Hey, where did you get the bins? And I don't know if it was you or someone else. It was like, oh, we got it from like Uline or something. I don't know where. I think it was Uline. Or I asked about the size. Like, oh, okay, very cool, because that's something we need to.
Yeah.
And then, years later, we ended up sitting down having lunch. I didn't know that was your company prior. And because my other business partner ran into her and then said, he was just like, hey, Mikey, we got to go to lunch with somebody. I was like, okay, cool. Ask me questions. And then we met, and it was awesome. We stayed in touch through social media because obviously with the pandemic, a lot of people lost social touch in person.
Yeah.
But now we are back. So I am, it is awesome to have you here to kind of tell your story, because I felt like when I talked to you and we were kind of going through it, I thought it was so interesting because you went through a lot and you kept going. You have that, entrepreneur spirit, and I want to make sure our listeners can find out about some of the stuff you've gone through and some of your growth over the last couple of years and some tips and other stuff.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the company, how you got started.
Sure. So, my company is Latched Hooked Beauty. We focus on synthetic hair extensions, and I have to kind of take it back, because if I kind of start here, it's like I'm starting in the middle of the story, and I feel like it won't connect, because it's like, how did you get here?
Yeah.
Because sometimes people think I just like popped up.
So no, let's take it all the way back. So when you were 2, wait, maybe not that far.
Not that far, but so I am a former bank executive.
Okay.
So I used to work at Bank of America, and I was assistant vice president of consumer and small business banking, and did that for almost a decade. Left Bank of America in 2009, and decided I wanted to pursue entrepreneurship. Didn't necessarily, well, actually at that time, I convinced my husband. I said, I want to start a concierge service. And what I wanted to do was help celebrities that didn't really have time to, do the things that they need to do, pick up their laundry, grocery shop, things like that. And I thought this is what I wanted to do. And I actually, my first client, if you guys are familiar with her, Rashawn Ali, radio personality, she was my first client. She believed in me, gave me the keys to her house, had to go do some things for her. And it was in my head, I didn't know that this is what I wanted to do, but it was supposed to be like the Instacart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I didn't have that foundation, didn't know how to lay that foundation, that well. But now that I see what Instacart is, I'm like, that's what I was trying to build. But I didn't really know how to do that at that time. And then I just did a bunch of things. I did like a bridal tour. I created a magazine. Eventually became an influencer and worked with companies like Disney and General Motors. And actually General Motors was one of my first, they bought my first ad in the magazine when I created the digital magazine. Nice. They bought the first digital ad in the magazine. But I would, review resorts in Mexico, and all of that was nice and lovely, but it wasn't paying my bills.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, this is great, but I need something that's going to pay my bills. And so I went, most entrepreneurs have another side hustle, because they're trying to make things, ends meet. They're trying to scale and grow. And so for me, I said the easiest thing for me to do to make additional income would be to do hair, which is what I did when I was in high school.
Okay.
I used to braid hair. And so this is where the dots start to connect.
There we go.
So I said, so back then it was like 2014. I'm not sure if you remember. You might remember. I don't know. You don't do hair, Mikey. So, but the crochet braids was really starting to pop off.
Yep.
And it was like girls were getting on Instagram and brushing out the synthetic hair and rolling around the rod and dipping it in hot water and putting all the towels around so they don't burn themselves. And people were giving, suggestions like get a whole bunch of towels, put it around you so you don't burn yourself. And like we're literally dipping our heads in boiling hot water. And I was like, oh, this is cute. Now, crochet is not anything new.
Right.
We did it back in the day, but I loved the new look of this faux rod set. And I was like, oh, this is cute. I can do this. This is easy. So that's what I started doing. I started just crochet. And I was making like $80 a head, nothing crazy because, people were still trying to grasp a hold of the concept of the style. And so I remember going to Mississippi for the holidays where my husband is from. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be in Mississippi for the holidays. I got to keep myself busy. And so I made some flyers and put it out there and was like, I'm coming from Atlanta. Everybody in Mississippi like, oh, she's from Atlanta.
Yeah.
This about to be right. Exactly. It's like, oh, it's about to be popping because no one was like really. A lot of hairstylists, they were not doing the style because of
third-degree burns.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody wanted that in their salon. They were like, like we're not trying to get sued because we burnt someone. So it wasn't that, it was more of a DIY style. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna put the flyer out there. I'm gonna do some hair while I'm out there. And so I got booked up, did some hair, but there was this one customer that I had. When I was doing her hair, I said, make sure you don't move because the water is really hot. I'm going to dip your hair. You have to be still. And so I put the towels around her and it wasn't the water, it was the steam. And she moved, she jumped. Ooh. And a little bit of the water like caught her. And it was from that point, I was like, you know what, this is dangerous. I'm not trying to get sued.
Yeah.
I'm not licensed. It has to be a better way. And so that 6-hour drive from Mississippi back to Atlanta, I'm thinking like it has to be a better way. I'm like, why doesn't this hair already come pre-curled? So I remember, once I got back home the next day, I went to the beauty supply store and I'm looking high and low, nothing. There wasn't even any crochet here on the aisles.
Oh, wow.
No crochet, which is hard for people to believe.
Right.
This is 2014.
Okay.
So it's hard for people to believe. I'm like, what? No crochet braids, no crochet locks, no crochet anything. It was just braiding hair or the Marley hair that a lot of people use to do like twists and things like that. And I was like, okay, if I pre-curl this, because I had started pre-curling anyway, and that would take me a long time too, to pre-curl and try to have the hair already curled before the client came so that I could just loop it around. So I was like, let me make some samples. So I just got some flexi rods, and made different sizes. Went to the container store, got some little containers, put each curl in the container, and this is kind of an accelerated version now, but ended up sending it to a manufacturer, and they duplicated the curls. Actually, it was a few manufacturers duplicated the curls, sent it back. The duplication was actually better than the sample that I sent, and I was like, okay, It's on and popping. We can sell this hair already pre-curled and looped. For me, I wanted to make sure that the experience that came along with it was better than what Black women would typically experience by going into the beauty supply store.
For sure. Yep.
So the packaging was also top of mind for me. I was like, I don't want this in a plastic bag because, synthetic hair is typically synonymous with cheap for Black women. And for a lot of Black women, that's what you could afford, was the synthetic hair. I know for me, that's what I could only afford. I didn't wear human hair, which is why I'm not in the human hair space because I don't understand it. I'm in synthetic because that's what I understand. I was braiding when I was 16 years old. I know how the synthetic hair works. I know how to manipulate it. I know what it's going to do. And so for me, it was about how can I make women buy this? Because I knew that I was going to be selling it at a cost that was more than what they had experienced. Right, this wasn't going to be $5 hair. This was going to be $20 a box. And to try to sell synthetic hair for $20 for one when you need 4. Yeah. They're like, girl, what? I'm used to paying $5. Yeah. Or 3 for $7 or something like that. But you're telling me I need 4 boxes and you're selling it for $20. And so I had to make the consumer feel like this was a luxury experience, So we started packaging it in boxes, and that had never been done. You had never been able to buy synthetic hair in a nicely decorated box, a cute little box. So that's a accelerated version, coming out with the pre-curl and looped hair. We launched Mother's Day weekend of 2015, ended up getting a partner, going through the whole thing, and we launched Mother's Day weekend of 2015, and that's how it got started.
The beginning.
That's the beginning.
So leading up. Okay.
Yeah. No, I was going to say 2 parts I love about this is, first, you were doing this, literally almost killed someone, and it said there has to be a better way. Yeah. Right. And that's something, I talk about in my book and just in entrepreneurship as general, is like, you have to be really mindful of stuff that you're doing on the day to day. And if it's something especially repetitive that takes time, you have to say, hey, is there a way you can actually manufacture this to be done? Yeah. Right. And create a product. Second, which I really connected with, even though it's people listening, I'm like, what? The drive home, the 6-hour drive home, I can't tell you how many ideas I had when I'm on a road trip driving home for a few different reasons. It's similar to a lot of us get ideas in the shower. Yeah. There's no distractions. And this is the importance of finding time for yourself to have 0 distractions. You're driving, you shouldn't be on that cell phone. Right. Okay, so you don't have
I wasn't driving, by the way. My husband was.
But you're driving and you're just like in this car, and it's like you have nothing to do because you're looking at signs and license plates of other cars, nothing. And you can come up with these ideas. Yeah. And it's the same time, like a lot of times I'm in the shower and I get this idea because I have like 0 distractions and no kind of. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm rushing to get out. I was like, let me write this down. Let me put a note in my phone. So like, that is so cool. When you said that, I said, I am the same thing has happened to me actually many times for some of my ideas, most of which didn't work, but I've had some great ones that did work. Well. Yeah. So that's perfect. So go ahead, Z.
Oh, I was just going to say, I love it. So one of the things that stood out to me was I thought about problem solving. I'm a very okay, there's a problem. What is the solution? And so for me, hearing you say, this is an issue. Like, we can't have boiling hot water over here burning people. Exactly. What is the solution to this? It's making hair so that you can crochet it in and don't have to take the time to rod it and dip it. So I love that. But talk a little bit about leading up to getting it manufactured and doing the boxes and everything. What were some stumbling blocks or obstacles that kind of got in your way, or was it a seamless process from that thought you had in the car all the way up to launching?
You know what? I hate, the reason why I hate to say it like this is because it's not always like this. Okay. But it was a really seamless process. Okay. It was. Favor. And honestly, I think that I just came along at the right time. I came, and you don't get that a lot of times.
Definitely.
You don't get that chance a lot of times. Yeah. There was no competition on the market. There was none. Yeah. And so I literally slid in to a space where there was no competition, and didn't have any for 2 years, before they started the Asian market started duplicating the process, because they're like, oh shit, like we see this name everywhere. People are wearing it. People are buying it. We need to jump on it. Yeah.
But it was a different name initially. right? And then it eventually switched.
So no, it's actually still, so
Was
it's
it
Curlkalon. The company is Curlkalon, and it's still in operation today.
Okay.
Okay.
And so I ended up selling the business in 2018.
Okay.
But in the midst of selling it, because it took a long time through court and all of that, I started Latched Hooked in 2016.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
So we weren't even in business for 2 years, completely 2 years, and we were already a multi-million-dollar company.
That's amazing.
Because we didn't have any competition. We were using customers, and their testimonies and pictures and influencer. And because I came from the influencer space, I was calling on my friends like, hey, can I send you some hair? Can you? And they were like, yeah, 'cause this looks cool.
Everyone wants hair.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're like, this looks cool. Yeah, I'll do this. And they were doing their hair and posting for me, and I didn't have to pay for it. And then I was doing crochet, and I was still doing crochet, and I was using the hair on my clients and posting the pictures. And so it was a perfect opportunity at that time. But even starting Latched Hooked, coming from Curkalon, still put me in a really good space with Latched Hooked because people knew my track record.
Yeah.
If I were to have started and no one knew who I was, I didn't have a track record, I wasn't necessarily known kind of like in the influencer space or by people, or just people just knowing who I was and knowing that typically the things that I attach myself to are really great things.
Yeah.
Then I'm not sure if it would have grown as fast,
as it did. Yeah.
Well, you had your experience from, it's like you kind of were redoing it again under this.
Yeah.
So you already had that track record, and just when she says track record, not just because of her personally, but her expertise in business,
Right.
setting up the websites, the shipping, the logistics, the packaging, the marketing, the everything else. You did it once. For you to do it again was probably a lot easier.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and I would say like, if I did have to say, what was like difficult, it was we used, myself and my partner at that time, we had found a sourcing agent.
Gotcha.
And that was difficult, trying to understand how that worked. But it ended up being really great because they were familiar with manufacturers. We didn't know anything about manufacturing or how to contact a manufacturer or what do you do.
That was my next question.
So, what do you do? Where do you go? And so we ended up finding a product sourcing agent, Google.
Yeah.
Best friend. And that helped us get to, the next piece. And then just asking questions really just, of the manufacturer and how all that works and, minimum quantity order, all of that. And what was really different is that, a lot of times you might contact a manufacturer who already has a product that's already created. And so you just say like, oh, I want that. And they're like, okay, how many? And then you buy it. With ours, there was nothing.
Yeah.
We had to send them the products and they had to send it a completed product back. And we had to make sure that it met our specifications or what have you. And so that is where it's a little bit different because we weren't a distributor.
Right.
We were literally creating a product from scratch.
I love that. So talk a little bit about, you said you sold the company in 2016?
2018.
Oh, you sold it in 2018. So talk about kind of being like a new business because you were around for about 2 years or so. How hard was it selling the company that early? And what were some of those thoughts that you had surrounding, man, am I selling it too early? Like, is this a great sale? Like, what does that look like?
So I did not sell the company because I wanted to or because we were in a great spot. I really didn't have a choice.
Okay.
So without going into all of it, because, we're still kind of bound by the whole legal thing. Basically I had a partner. My partner felt that she could run the company by herself and she'd be better, fit to run the company by herself, and decided to do what's called an owner lockout. And so one day I woke up and I could not get into any of our systems. All the passwords were changed. Nothing worked. we had just the warehouse actually that Mikey spoke of. I was actually going to the warehouse that day to process orders and couldn't get in.
Wow.
And was told that the reason why I couldn't get in, we actually just moved into that warehouse. And so I had not yet signed the lease. So her job was, you take care of this, I'm gonna take care of this, know. And we had only been in there, I think 2 days, maybe 1.
Oh, wow.
And the day I was getting in, I think was like the second day. Like we had just got moved in. And I hadn't signed the lease. And the leasing manager was like, unfortunately, I can't let you in because your name is not on the lease. But I'm like, but you were there when we, like, wow. I don't understand. But because my name was on that paper, I could not get in. And
Could
so
you imagine?
Yeah.
Like, wow.
I'm like, and this, we've talked about it for years about the importance of having a good partnership,
yes.
the right person, and everything.
Oh my God,
aligned.
I cannot stress enough.
It is, because I've been through some bad partnerships before. Fortunately, now I'm so careful and have much more experience with this, so everything's good. It is like, I couldn't imagine that feeling, that experience, and everything else.
And that's what, I've grown a lot from that. And actually, every time I think about it, I think about the fact that it had to happen that way in order for me to be able to tell this story. You know what I mean? And help other entrepreneurs. Because when we started, I just thought when you do something together, it's 50-50.
Right.
No, you never go into partnership with anybody 50-50. Because in my case, when something happens, there's nobody in the middle to basically say, well, no, actually, she's right.
Yeah.
And this should happen.
Actually, let me get in that middle of that, because I've been going through this with upcoming contracts and more partners that we've been doing. Most people don't even know about some of our partnerships, which I like to keep that way. But there is, and this is important because Zakiyrah and I actually just recorded an episode before this. We have a conference coming up that we're going to have a lawyer speak for 45 minutes and talk about this exact stuff. But inside your contract, you can have basically says, if you are 50-50, you can say, you can have a clause. This person is in charge.
Yeah, for sure.
So like moving forward, all our contracts, I don't care who I partner with. Mikey's in charge.
Right.
Because
you can't
I am not going to let something like that happen. Because I've been screwed, you've been screwed, so you're not going to let it happen again. Like if you're running this and you're the expert, you should be the one in charge.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And the problem that I had was when I went to court, okay, you're 50-50. Well, she has a right and she has a right.
Yeah.
The law can't even get in the middle and make the decision because, to your point, it's very gray. And the law doesn't like gray.
They basically say sell the company.
Yes.
That's the end result. Is like, oh, you guys can't get along or figure this out.
Yep.
Okay,
sell it.
Sell it.
Wow.
Right.
And start
and
over.
Actually, I so that part, and then our paperwork was just very sloppy, very Google-ish. So there are things that again, whereas Google is good, when it comes to contracts, people, please
hire a profesh.
I cannot stress enough.
And it's not even honestly that expensive. So some people are listening to this, and this is why I like to go in a little bit more with this, because this is, in our industry, this is the lacking portion is so
business,
great. Is you can find a lawyer generally to do these contracts. A lot of times it's going to be, as long as you can kind of like, don't just go in there and be like, I don't know what I need, this, that, the other. Do a little research, have a little understanding. To get this nice contract built out, it's generally going to cost you less than $1,000, to be honest with you. They do these all the time.
Right.
They have kind of their own kind of templates they work with. They can do all this stuff. So like, and if you can't go into a business with having a little bit of money for legal with a partner, you probably should hold off on that business.
Say that all the time.
It's not worth it.
I say that
it's not worth it, right? Would you do that?
No.
There's no way.
I say it all the time. And people push back on me about that, but I'm just like, honestly, it's like, if you can't afford to get these things set up, like people are always going for the website and all the pretty stuff. And it's like, no, you've got to get this stuff right, because if it doesn't, I'm an example. I have spent thousands of dollars, over $40,000 fighting this case, to the point where it was just like, I had to make the decision where it was just like, Tiffini, you have to let go. You got to start over because you're bleeding your family dry of money that you don't have to spend on legal fees. I went through 3 attorneys.
Wow.
Even that situation, like I thought when I hired my first attorney, I didn't know that she wasn't a litigator, nor did she tell me, but I didn't know that. I thought a lawyer was a lawyer was a lawyer. I thought that if you're a lawyer, you can get in a courtroom, you can do anything. No. So she ended up hiring a lawyer who was a litigator. So that cost me money.
Right.
You know, and then I didn't know that you need an attorney who specializes in business.
Right.
Because then I ended up getting an attorney. He was an entertainment attorney, didn't know anything about business, and was up there in front of the judge, and they were asking him things he didn't even know what they were talking about.
Wow.
So it's like it's like all it sounds, you know, again, like it just sounds like you should know that. But if you think about it, you're like, oh, if you're an attorney, you can help me.
Yeah, how would you know?
And unfortunately, they won't tell you because they want the money.
Yeah.
I honestly, I would go into like a business partnership, right, of this. And I'm actually glad because I didn't know how much you would do. I knew a little bit of the background story. I didn't tell anything to Zakiyrah because I wanted to see what would come out or not. But I would be very like red flag if you're going into a partnership with someone and they're like, oh, we can do all the paperwork later. Don't worry about it. I'd be worried about that. I almost, to be honest with you, this is a little bit more extreme and it does get a little more personal.
I get a credit check too.
But
that's good.
That part.
She just nailed it. Is you have if you're going into business, like if like,
I could really go into it, but I'm just telling y'all, get a background check, get you a credit check, know the people that you are going in business with, because again, like I said, Curkalon is a multi-million-dollar business. Yeah. And if someone is not used to making that type of money,
no.
Yeah.
Or all kind of things is going to go wrong because all they see is the money. They're not seeing the building aspect. Like I was looking at the building aspect, the legacy aspect. Like, oh my God, like my children's children are going to be able to benefit off of this. Yeah. You know what I mean? Then someone who is not used to having that is thinking like, oh, I want to buy a car. I want to buy a house, or I can go on vacations. What?
It's like the business made this money.
Right.
It's not yours.
That part too. Yeah. That part too, because people will also want to use the business as a piggy bank.
Yeah.
And it's so much that I don't even know if we have time, but it's so much.
But this stuff is really important.
It's so important. It is like choosing a spouse for the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
It is that serious. And so the contracts need to be tight, you know, asking questions, you know, really understanding what is your partner, when you talk to your partner, where do they see this business, this relationship going, you know, how is this benefiting the overall, you know, their overall life, you know, you just want to know that stuff, and you want to know the background of your partner as well, because that could come back and bite you as well. And so, so to your point, like I didn't want to sell the company, but I had to.
Okay.
And, it hurt, you know, it was like, I mean, I don't know what it's like giving a kid up. I don't know that, but I mean, it was very painful, you know, to do, because I knew where I wanted to take the company, and I wasn't confident that the person that I was selling it to could take it there. I didn't even get to pick who I was actually selling it to. Actually, my partner was trying to sell it to them without me knowing. And I ended up finding out in court.
Wow.
That this conversation was being had. And I had to contact them like, do you know that I exist? And that she cannot sell the company to you because I own
half of it.
Half of the company. And so it wasn't a cheerful, happy situation. It was just something that I had to do.
Yeah.
And so I made peace with the fact that it had to be done. And started over in 2016 with Latched Hooked from ground zero, with the first picture showing on Instagram, with the first, me, creating the logo myself, with the little bit of money that I had left after all of the legal fees. And so it was daunting in the beginning because I was literally in competition with myself. And when I say myself, is like, I started Curkalon.
Right.
I started the foundation of Curkalon. The Curkalon has a story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm starting over and I'm competing against the very business that I started. And so in the beginning, a lot of people were confused because they were like, is this a sister company of Curkalon? Like, because again, remember, we were dominant in that market.
Right.
And so when you saw pre-curl and loop crochet hair, you automatically associated that with Curkalon. And so people were saying things like I was copying Curkalon, and I was stealing pictures and
wow,
all kind of things. Yeah. But I just had to keep pushing because I knew what I wanted to do. And so ironically, how Latched Hooked's story evolved was a couple years after starting Latched Hooked, my oldest daughter got her hair braided for the first time. And when she went to get her hair braided the day after, she experienced scalp irritation from the hair. And she started breaking out in her scalp really bad, pus.
Wow.
Just breaking out really bad. So we had to take the hair out. It was hair we bought from the beauty supply store because at that time, Latched Hooked only sold pre-curl and loop crochet hair, nothing else. Just the curls.
And was that, were those the curls that you initially created with the manufacturer?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But I switched manufacturers.
Okay.
So I didn't stay with the manufacturer because my partner tried to stop the business.
Gotcha.
Yeah, tried it. So I was like, well, actually my mom was like, yeah, you need to get out of there and find another manufacturer because you don't want her to be able to stop your business.
Right.
So I ended up finding another manufacturer. But it was the incident that happened with my daughter that actually pretty much created who we are today. And again, it goes back to solving problems. And so it made me more interested in how the hair was being manufactured versus just the hair to style itself. Yeah. And I was like, why? And so when I was doing my research, I'm like, there's all these women, because I don't suffer from scalp irritation. Like I can buy hair from the beauty supply store and I'm fine.
Yeah.
But my daughter cannot wear beauty supply store hair at all. She can only wear Latched Hooked because she would get irritated. Her scalp would get irritated. She'll itch and scratch and all of that. And so when I was doing my research, I was like, oh, there's a whole community of other women who are dealing with this. And they're soaking the hair in apple cider vinegar, trying to stabilize the toxins or trying to get the toxins out. And I'm like, well, why should you have to buy a product and go through all these different steps just to be able to enjoy it? And as well as I do, growing up as a young Black girl, we're taught that basically beauty is pain. Mm-hmm. Sit still. I'm put this hot comb in your hair. Ooh. It might burn your ear or burn your forehead.
I got a lot of burns.
The braid so tight that we I don't know if you thought this, but we used to think if the braids weren't tight, it wasn't right. It was from that point on that I was like, I have 2 daughters. And for me, it was very important to debunk this myth that beauty equals pain. Mm-hmm. For a lot of Black women, right? That you don't have to be in pain or feeling some type of pain to feel like it's right or oh, it's just beauty.
I love that. Yeah.
And so nor did I feel like I should spend money and have to do all of these steps before I can enjoy it. So I started partnering with the manufacturer to find out, I got a material safety data report to look at all of the chemicals that were being used in the formulation of the synthetic hair. I didn't even know what synthetic hair was made out of. Like I just made up in my mind that it was like a combination of shit. I don't know. I don't know.
Just some fibers.
Right. Like, I don't know. We just, some people say it's horse hair. Some people, I don't know. We just making up stuff. And I was like, I should know how this is being made. And so I started getting really excited when I found, I was like, oh my God, this is STEM. This is science, technology, engineering, and math. Like it literally takes a series of chemicals to create this fiber and then make it into a textured looking human hair type of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, and I was like, oh my God, this is so interesting. And so I had a sorority sister who introduced me to a polymer chemist, and she helped me to understand how those composites come together to be able to create the synthetic hair, and why women are probably experiencing the pain, and that even though they're soaking it in the apple cider vinegar, it's not actually taking the toxins out. It's just stabilizing, because vinegar is an acid. And so she's just dropping knowledge and, you know, gems. And I'm like, okay, like, you know, and so I'm partnering with her to try to, you know, figure out, like, you know, how can I take these chemicals that may be the issue and replace them with a chemical that's safer. And so she worked with me on that. And so I was able to get with the manufacturer and do that. And so what separates Latched Hooked now from any other synthetic hair extension company on the market is that our chemicals are non-toxic. And so now, whether you suffer from scalp irritation by wearing synthetic hair, you can wear hair that's just safe, period. Because at the end of the day, who wants to wear anything that has toxins in it? Right. So now you have a choice of what you want to, you know, what you want to do. And so, you know, we've just been able to help, you know, so many women. We're global.
Yes.
We have shipped to every state except for one, which is so funny, but 49 states, 15 countries, and really just been able to help, you know, women take back their confidence, because the whole thing is like, we want women to feel as good as they look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
What's the one state?
That. What's the one state?
I'm going to get you a sale on that state.
It's like Wyoming.
Okay.
Is it Wyoming?
Yes.
I'll get you a sale on the state this week. I'm serious. I can do it.
I love it.
I got people in Wyoming.
I was like, I don't know anyone in Wyoming.
We're filling up the 50. We're all 50. Okay?
That's what I'm
hilarious.
saying. I was like,
yes.
One thing that I love, though, is the tenacity and ambition behind, like, failure. Like, you failed. You could have quit. It could have been like, oh my God, I'm dying. Like, this isn't going to work. But then you literally paused, took a second, and then started again. And you're successful with what you started. So I love that. And people who are listening, I love that you're able to hear these failure stories, because we all hear and we know that without failure, there's no success. And sometimes that's not true, but for majority of times, it's true that you're going to go through things, you're going to fail before you even reach that peak. So I love that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, you know, I don't know if I would have said this, you know, 5 years ago, but what I know now is that there are lessons within failure. Mm-hmm. And so if you're not failing, you're not learning.
Right.
You know, so everybody wants to be successful, but the path to success is being able to understand that you have to fail along the way in order to learn. So everything that I've failed at and happened over, you know, the last 6 years, I learned some very valuable lessons. And again, I'm able to share that with small business owners, founders, you know, who are starting or, you know, trying to scale and grow or what have you. But, you know, I think that everything that has happened to me thus far is not like luck. It's a direct correlation to just how hard I work.
Yeah.
And just staying committed to the mission of really servicing, you know, Black women and making sure that they have access to safe beauty products.
Yeah, I love it. So when did the patent come into place?
The patent actually came into place with Curkalon.
Okay, so you were able to take that and use that, and that was yours.
Yeah, that was like one of the only things that I was able to kind of get in the you know, in my settlement. But that was really important for me, and I really fought hard for that, because when we were creating everything, that was the one thing that I was like, we got to get a patent.
Yeah.
Like that was something that I said, you know, patents and trademarks, those were like really important to me. And so I fought hard for that, you know, going through my settlement, because I'm just like, you know, if it were not for me, who knows if this product would have ever
been created.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
I love that.
That's interesting because you go to extremes for your products, and it just when you're talking about it, it just reminds me of some of the stuff that I do, and people are like, "You're crazy," because I'm working on this new project, and I was telling my accountant because I was asking for some advice, and then have to talk to a lawyer about it just because I want to move forward in the right way. And he's like, "Wait, tell me a little bit more about this. I'm not really getting it." I was like, "I don't really need you to get it. I just need you to tell me what to do.
Right.
Me telling you what I'm doing is going to cost me more money, but I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit." So he's just like, and then he just was like, "All right, no charging for this, but I got to let you know." He's like, "You are literally crazy." He's like, in a good way, because you look at something and you will go to any extreme to find out how to do this product the right way. And at the end of the day, it's always got to be good or not good, great for the consumer, whoever's going to be utilizing this product and making changes.
It's more pressure on us too, I would say. And I'm saying us because even as a Black woman creating hair in an industry that is predominantly known to be owned by a whole nother demographic. Right. And you've got to be great because people are looking at you like, what do you know about Black hair? So you got to...
I have Dallas Christopher.
But it's a lot of pressure because you know, people, especially in this day and time, because people are asking questions. Is this Black owned? Because they are questioning, how can you tell me about something that I've been dealing with all my life? You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's important to, you know, really know what you're talking about in this space because people are challenging you along the way. And so we have to be 10 times better than what was already available. Yeah. You know?
Definitely. So what have been some of the successes with Latched and Hooked since you started?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of successes, a lot of, you know, coverage, you know.
Tons of press.
Yeah, a lot of press, a lot of press. And, you know, the press for me doesn't, what it does for me is it validates us in the space.
Sure.
You know, that's all it does for us.
Well, it also, I mean, it'll get you sales.
It gets you, it gets you sales.
Get sales, get into another market.
Yeah.
SEO, get you links to your website, which are good. So there's a lot with press.
There is, but you know, it was really important in the beginning to get validated because again, people are skeptical,
right?
with buying from hair companies,
right?
You know, because there's just, you know, especially when you don't have, like, we don't have a brick and mortar, so you know, there's always skepticism of like, am I buying from a company that's real, and will I get the product that they're showing me, or is it going to be something else? And so being able to say like, oh, we've been in Essence and Black Enterprise, and we've been mentioned in Forbes, and we've been in Inc. 5000, and like, you know, all these different things or whatever. It really just heightens, you know, our visibility.
Even with all that, people are still going to question you.
Oh, people still question, but I mean, it's easier to be able to shoot them a link. Like, hey, if you've never really heard of us, like, hey, we were just like this great article by Good Morning America. Let me send it to you or whatever. Or like in our email efforts, we just continue. Like for me, what I do, like in my email efforts, I continuously tell my story about why I started. So I always go back to the why. At least every few months, I go back to the why and why I started, and I retell my story again, and you know, add a link in there where people can kind of read like the full scope of it. And I also, you know, like it used to be really painful for me to even bring up Curkalon and mention it, but because, you know, my partner was also at that time, she was also trying to erase me, which she still does. Like she tries to erase me, and she'll be like, I'm the founder of Curkalon. But my thing is like I told you before, like I really can't tell my story without starting there. You know what I mean? Like it's a part of my story. It is. So I used to be really afraid to talk about it because like I didn't want just any negative attention brought towards it, and it was like I don't want to be seen as like, oh, she's bitter and like blah blah blah. But now I'm like, nah, like it's part of my story. Like, yes, I started something great. I created it. It was my idea. I brought someone in. It was my idea, and it's a part of my story. And it is what it is. And so I'm proud of what I did and what I was able to accomplish. And I'm you know, I'm still excited that people still get to experience it.
Yeah.
And, you know, hopefully it continues, you know, on, and it, you know, and it does great. But I'm in a new lane. I've got a new mission, you know, my values, you know, are set. There's a story there. And I just really believe, like, if you don't really have like a solid story behind why you started a business, like the longevity of the business may not. Right. It may, but it's just, sometimes it's just not as, you know, powerful.
And people connect to the story.
Yeah.
A lot of times before they connect to the product.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, even just going on more about what you were asking, like success, like one of the things that I'm like really proud of is, you know, we were backed by Google last year, and that was really, a very sentimental moment, just because, you know, a tech company invested in this hair extension company because they got what we were trying to do. Yeah. They got what we were, you know, what our mission is. And, you know, we got $100,000 in non-dilutive capital, and that really allowed us to be able to do a lot of things that, you know, was in my notes section in my phone. You know,
you gotta love
bring
the note
some
section.
things to life and move into a warehouse space that we desperately needed, because I was still like shipping products out of my basement of my home, and like I had no room, you know, so I desperately needed that.
You know, I know that.
Yeah. And, you know, I needed to hire employees, and I needed to bring new products to life, and just so many things. And that really just helped us. And it also validated us. Yeah. You know, because like, well, Google invested in us. Like, what's your deal?
What's your problem?
What's your deal?
Hasn't heard of Google.
Right. It's like, what's your deal? But, you know, so that was like a really great moment. And, you know, it's just, I mean, there's like tons of things that have happened. And, you know, we were, Ulta Beauty named me one of 100 inspiring Black voices in and around beauty.
I saw that, yeah.
And gave me $10,000. And I was like, how does Ulta even know my name? Like, you know, so it's like, for me, my head is always down. So like, you know, I'm always working. And so to get like these little things, it's inspiring. It helps to keep me going, you know, because I don't have an investor. I'm bootstrapping this thing, you know. Yeah. I know that I need one probably at some point, maybe not. But you know, it's hard because like in this founder world, you can get very caught up in trying to grow fast. Yeah. You know, and I had to step back and say, it's not about growing fast. It's about growing the right way. Right. And, you know, sometimes, you know, it's not a sprint. You know, it's a marathon, you know, and it's okay if you're moving slower than others. And so I just have to keep reminding myself of that, because sometimes, like, you know, even I don't know at what point I was having this conversation with another founder, and it was like, I'm not sure at what point like $1 million became like this golden carrot that like everybody was trying to achieve to. Right. But understanding that someone who has $1 million business, or even a multi-million-dollar business, and someone who has a 6-figure business, the 6-figure business could be doing better than the multi-million-dollar business if, you know, if the revenue is not being used properly. Right. Yep. And so it's also just about freedom. Like, what are you gaining from it? Like, for me, I'm able to take my daughter to the dermatologist without having to beg someone for time off. You know what I mean? You know, I'm able to go on vacations and leave my employees because they know what to do, because we have put the right processes in place. You know, it's being able to take off on Wednesdays. I'm off on Wednesdays. You know, that's a big thing that was really important to me, to just have a day off that I can relax and do some things that I want to do, because I'm going hard in my business every other day. And so Wednesdays I take off, and everybody knows that, and they don't call me unless something is on fire. And so you have to figure out what is valuable and important to you. You know, so I don't strive to become $1 million company. You know, I strive to make sure that we're profitable, that, you know, regularly talking to my accountant, trying to figure out how can I cut expenses, making sure that, I know where our money is going and how it's being spent, and I'm using it wisely. And again, setting the processes in place and pouring into employees, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy. And I know that wherever continuously doing this, I'm going to continue to grow.
Definitely.
As long as I'm outpacing last year, I feel good about that, so I'm not chasing a dollar amount and saying like, oh, if I get this, I'm successful. I know I'm successful because my customers are telling me every day, and they're emailing me and telling me like, I haven't been able to wear synthetic hair in decades, and now I can. And I continuously get those type of stories. So I'm like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, I love that. I did see that. I'm a sucker for a great subscription box, and I did see that you guys have the BYOB box. So talk a little bit about that and why you started that box and how it works.
Yeah, so I noticed that women were buying like a crazy amount of like braiding hair. So after my daughter had that situation, we came out with the braiding hair, and the braiding hair is actually our #1 product. Not even the curls anymore, it's the braiding hair. And so I noticed that women were buying like crazy amounts, like 10 packs, 12 packs, 14 packs. And I was like, why are they buying so much? Like, I mean, I love it, but like, why are they buying this much? And I realized that they didn't know how much hair they needed to complete a style. So I went to the braiders that's in our network, and I was like, hey, how many packs of hair did you use for that style? How many packs of hair did you use? So we did that for like a year.
Okay.
And asked how many, and we found out that they didn't use any more than 4 to 6 packs of hair. So I was like, okay. So I was like, let's bundle it. So we started first with like bundling with the braid box, and we sold the hair in a box, which is called a braid box, and we still sell it, and we sell on Amazon as well. And then I was like, okay. Then I kept seeing customers, like some of the same customers, like purchasing. And I was just like, okay, there's something here. So I sent out a survey asking like, how often do you get your hair braided? And so when I saw that, I'm like, we should come out with a subscription box, because what happens is a lot of times these braiders have last minute cancellations, and it's like, hey, I've got an appointment, and it's like, oh my God, I need hair, I can't get it. So it's like, put it on subscription. You'll get it every month, the same time every month. That way you know when you'll have it. You can make your appointments accordingly, and you always have a box of hair ready to go, so that when you see that cancellation, you grab your box and you go to your appointment.
That's genius.
And it was just easy, and they could sample different colors, different, pre-stretch, non-stretch. We have over 80 colors, so it's a very exhaustive list of colors, and it just gives people the opportunity to be able to try different colors, because the colors are based on mood. Like today you might be purple, tomorrow you're pink. But every month you could literally try a new color, and you can gift it. If you have a daughter in the house, you can share it.
Right.
So it was just something fun that I thought would be, really cool. And also it brought in another stream of income, for us.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out other ways to diversify our revenue streams.
I love that.
So getting into like some of the nuts and bolts of where you are today with the business. So how many different, because you have 80 colors, and I started thinking 80 colors, and probably it's just one length for those 80 colors.
So we have we have 3 lengths.
Okay. So how many, because I started doing these numbers and I think, how many products, SKUs? So how many?
Yeah, we have about 260.
260 SKUs. Okay. And then how many employees do you have right now?
7.
7 employees.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah, payroll's getting up there a little bit.
It is getting up there a little bit.
Yeah.
It's getting up there a little bit.
Getting up there a little bit. So,
but we have customer service, we have social media, we have warehouse associates. So
what has been some of the challenges of finding new staff members?
The challenges is just finding them.
Yeah.
Right.
Good quality people.
Yes, good quality people, finding them. I've scheduled interviews and people don't show up to the interviews.
Yeah, we go through that.
Not
me, but I have my
what
office
is
manager.
going on?
It's kind of crazy, right?
It's very crazy. Very crazy.
It's interesting to me because I think about it. And if you're one of those people, sorry, not sorry. I think about what I have to go through in a day. I think about what you go through in a day. And I'm just like, if someone like is scheduling interviews and not showing up, like if you better change your mindset, because they're watching social media. They think that all this stuff is so easy. Yeah. And I'm like, you don't want to live in my world. You're not ready. No. Like I just don't get I don't know if it's the younger generation. I don't know what it is, but it's somewhat worrisome.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It really is. And when they do get hired, it's like, the calling out or the no call, no show, or the, I'm a pretty, coming from corporate and having to manage like 600 people at one time, and different age groups and different attitudes and all kind of, things or what have you. I'm a very, I'm not a vulture. I tell you what you're supposed to do and I just expect you to do it. Yeah. And so sometimes though, having that type of approach, people just get real lax. Yeah. And so then you have to come back behind and it's like, you're like the mean girl now, because it's like, look guys, I'm okay if you have your cell phone on the floor, but like you can't be, on TikTok and doing all these things, because if you mess up these orders, it's a problem.
Yeah. Can't be going viral with it.
Right. Exactly. Nope. So it's just, and then I also employ a lot of young people. Okay. And kind of on purpose, because I always wanted to pour into like young ladies. I have a lot of women that work, young women that work with me, and it's just really important that I pour into these young women and help them to, just grow as business women, whether whether it's their own business or they're working for someone. I always want to make sure that if they ever leave me, they can go into another workplace and, be able to have leadership capabilities.
I love that.
Just because someone did that for me when I was in corporate. I tell the story all the time about one of my managers at Bank of America and how she really poured into me, and how that gave me the opportunity to, get titles and more money and more opportunities. And it was all because she poured into me. Like she could have just left me at 23, like, okay, she got her little fishnet stockings and, whatever, but I'm going to pull her to the side and talk to her and say like, hey, if you want to be in management, you've got to act and have some of the characteristics and qualities of a leader, and this is what you have to do. And she did that. And so I vowed that I would always do that for anybody that's working for me. So
that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. I think it's important to, as an entrepreneur, to bring people with you. And that's what we really talk about our staff. I actually talked to one of our staff members that have been with us for a while. She's in customer support. And I said, look, this person and this person that are kind of like our key customer support in our showroom. I was like, you can't be doing the same thing next year. Yeah. So we're going to have to start leveling you up, getting your mindset to kind of like change a little bit. It's great right now, but change a little bit. Yeah. We're more of a leadership. We can create a role, something. I don't want you to be kind of like, we just keep bringing people in above you. Like you're going to have to do something to change that. Yeah. Right. Because sometimes people need that little push.
They do. Definitely.
Right? Because you just kind of get stuck in that day to day. I'm going to work, this, that, the other, and you try to set up nice for them and people get comfortable. Yeah. But being comfortable, I found, doesn't always put you in a winning position.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't. And I think it's great to, I try to do this, sit down and say like, what do you like to do? What are you really good at? My husband had to remind me, because there was like a day I was like really having a hard day, and he was like, you need to talk to your team, because I bet you they have some of the answers that you need. And a lot of times employees will not say anything because they think that, well, he's the leader, she's the leader, they have the answers. Yeah. And they don't want to like approach you with maybe a solution because they think that it'll get knocked down or what have you. And so like one day, like we literally just sat there for like a couple hours and just like brainstorm stuff and was like, well, what do you think? What could we do better? And I tell them all the time, like, look, guys, I don't know everything. Yeah. I need help. And if you guys have some ideas, you have some connections, let's I'll try anything once. Let's try to figure it out together. And, you just got to empower the employees and really make them feel like they're a part of, the company. And I say our a lot,
Right. Yeah.
because it's not like, I want them to feel like this is
They're a part of
right.
it. Yeah.
Zakiyrah, do you feel like you're talking to me sometimes?
Yeah.
Like literally, we
I'm
sound
staring like there's so many similarities
yeah,
here.
we sound so much alike, and it's very rare to meet somebody like that.
Right.
Like some people are just so in left field,
Yeah.
or like just when we started this company, we literally started this company. Our first investment was $14,000. We did another round of $14,000. That's all we've ever done for this company. No funding, no nothing.
Yeah.
And I understand the thing about like, you look at other companies that get funding, right? So one of we're in the same space, but kind of real different concept. They've raised over $40 million in our industry, right? It's the first of its kind to raise that much money in this industry.
Yeah, I know you're talking
And I'm
about.
like, hats off to them.
Right.
But at the same time, like, just because you raised all this money, like a lot of people burn this money.
Yeah.
They think like, oh, I have all this money now. And this is the common problem with some owners where they're just like, let me just go do all this crazy stuff that doesn't make sense. And you start forgetting about what the customer really wants.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like you have like a good handle of what your customer wants, creating new products and services for them to make their experience with your products better. And it's so important to always stay client focused. I say it all the time.
For sure.
All the time.
The clients are gonna be what makes you win.
Definitely.
For sure.
Like I even like I told them yesterday, like there is no way that we could have shipped to 49 states and 15 countries without y'all, because we were asking them to like tell your friends, refer, like anybody in the army, like they got hair issues, like they need hair, like they were the ones helping us. Or like if we need something, like we go to them. It's like, look, my email, the subject be like, I need your help.
There you go.
You know what I mean? And they open it quick.
Yeah.
And they're like sending stuff. I'm like, I'll send something, like if I realize I don't have pictures of this particular hair, like I'll go through and I'll filter through, like, let me filter all the customers who bought this hair. And then I'm emailing them like, I know you bought this hair. I need some pictures. I know you got some. Please send them to me. You know what I mean? So it's like you have, like, they will make you win. Like you can't forget about them.
The customers, definitely. And going back to the team aspect, I love like how you said someone took you under their wings and kind of helped you. That was how I felt working with Mikey. So I think I was like the second employee at private label extension. So I was with them for 6 years.
Yeah, but still with us today in a
definitely.
kind of roles,
so I've been able to learn so many things under Mikey's leadership, and because he was the type of person who, when he saw something, it was like, hey, let's kind of shift and help you do this so that, you feel more involved or you feel this way within the company. So that's so important when it comes to leadership, being able to identify who your employees are, what they need, and then how they can be successful within the company.
Absolutely.
And a lot of
and
the
I'm
things
so glad that
I
you told him that.
Yeah, I've shared this with him before, but a lot of the things that I learned under Mikey, I was able to walk away and take it and incorporate into my own life and my own business. And even today, we still work together. We do the podcast together.
Yeah, working on the event.
There's still a lot.
She was in LA filming with us.
Yeah, for sure. But I just love it because it's like I can walk away and do my own thing, but still know that I can always come back to Mikey and I can always work with him and I can always get information from him. So it's a beautiful thing.
I love that. And you said something really important because, and I kind of learned this a little bit from Shopify, because they encourage their employees to start businesses while working with them. And they have several employees who have, multi-million-dollar businesses, but create them while working there, And so I think as founders, when we have employees, again, this is why it's so important to go to your employees and ask them, like, what do you want to do? I had an employee, she had she made soaps, and I would buy soaps and her shea butters and and I'm like, hey, let's do a live together. Trying to help her and she's seen how we operate and how we store things and this, that, and the third. And she's able to learn that so she can build her business as well. And I think it's great when founders can pour into their employees to help them build something amazing as well. and not look at it from the standpoint like you're trying to keep somebody in this position forever, and knowing that there will be some churn in the business. But
churn is good.
Churn is good.
Yeah.
Churn is good.
It means you're doing something incredibly right, and those employees are not going to forget you.
Definitely.
As they continue to grow, and you'll be a part of their growth story as well.
Definitely. I love that. So what are 1 or 2 tips that you could give anyone out there who is looking to start a business, who's already been in business, having some trouble? What are just like 1 or 2 things that you could share?
So I would say the first thing is making sure that you start. It's kind of something that I alluded to earlier. Is just making sure that when you're starting something that has a story and a problem connected to it.
Yeah.
Because if you're solving problems, like those are really like the companies that really have longevity, because you're constantly, and you're not just solving, like we started with one problem, we've evolved to many different problems that we're solving. So you find a problem, you solve that, you find another problem, you solve that. So that's what I would say first. Sometimes hobbies are not necessarily businesses.
Yeah.
So you've got to, figure out like how, if it is a hobby, like how is this really helping someone? Is it attached to helping someone? And then I think the other thing is like, I stay in a constant state of learning.
Yeah.
Learning from other people, reading books, going to entrepreneur conferences. I always tell people this, like I hesitate at the word expert a lot because to me, is my opinion, expert is means like you know it all. And I feel like I might know a lot about something, but I don't think that I'll ever know everything about it. And so I don't like to say like I'm an expert, but I like to share what I already know about that topic. So I would just say like staying in a constant state of learning from other entrepreneurs who you might look up to that are doing really well in the space that you might want to be, or maybe not, it could be an indirect competitor. And just figuring out like, how can you get better? I love reading. I'm reading this book now called Fix This Next, and Profit First. I love that book as well. But finding books, reading, really just expand your mind, and and those are my tips.
Have you read the book?
I love it.
Fearless Beauty?
I know that you have the book Fearless Beauty, and I haven't gotten it yet.
Well, I got a few copies.
Well, all
of
right.
Nice.
All right. Well, I need my copy then.
I
I
got
need
a
my
nice
copy
little
because
copy for ya.
because I know you got some gems in there.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I'm inspired. Thank you so much for joining
And I'm
us
inspired.
today. Yes, this has been really great. Just being able to hear your story.
Thank you.
And
It's always a pleasure to be able to share it.
Definitely. My favorite part is just the failure and the pickup, and just keep going, building your team, building the business, trying out new things. I was very in awe when you said you went to talk to a chemist because you wanted to find out what are these manufacturers putting in these products, and you created a solution for the problem that your daughter has. So I love that. I loved it.
Yeah, it's just, I knew, because I said she's going to be a great guest.
Yeah.
I knew she's been through it.
Yeah.
And because I think it's important for people to understand that, right now things look all good. You're getting all these interviews and all this stuff, but they don't really, I think it's important to focus on the backstory because a lot of people don't understand, that a lot of times you have to go through a lot to get where you are today. And a lot of people are going through that now. Definitely. And I think it's important for them to hear it from others to say, yeah, I understand. I went through this. This is my story. This is some of the things. And then, people might be listening to this and say, oh my God, I thought I was going through some stuff. Hers is way worse, and look where she is today. Right. So that gives them, gives you more hope.
Yeah. Definitely.
I think it's crucial.
Yeah. So share with everyone where they can find you, social media, website, all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me personally, Tiffini, at Tiffini Gatlin. It's my first and last name. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. Latched and Hooked is latchedandhooked.com. So we're also on Amazon. You can find our products on Amazon. And we're on Instagram, of course, with Latched and Hooked. So it's Latched, the letter N, and then Hooked. And so we're always posting on there. We're very active, very approachable. You can hit us in the DM. We'll respond and answer. And we're on YouTube. And yeah.
Love
Awesome.
it. Love it. And we'll put all of this in the show notes so you guys can click on the link, go to the website, make sure you check out the products, especially if you are someone who has scalp irritation a lot. These products are specifically for you. But of course, anyone looking for synthetic hair can buy these products.
Especially in Wyoming.
Especially in Wyoming.
That Wyoming. Let's say that 50. We need to hear the 50, guys. Show some
Especially in
support.
Wyoming.
Yes.
I love it. So make sure you guys check out all the other podcasts, like, comment, subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. Hey. All right. And we'll be back with another episode of Hair Biz Radio.
Bye.
Bye-bye.